Hi, this is Em. This is the third detail video that I've done in this little series that covered packing tape, contact paper, and this is going to be hot laminate. And I did do an overview video talking about doing these three items. I will be doing other coverings in the future, so again, if that sounds like something that you're interested in, please subscribe or check back on my channel from time to time, and or check my playlists. The three main things that I use for hot laminate as far as a heat source that I use is this machine. So this is a hot laminating machine. Amazon has them. Do a Google search. You can find them in a lot of different places. The prices I've noticed when I looked not too long ago have really come down, because I actually, back in the day, I've had this for a way long time. It was pretty expensive. It's a wide carriage. Let's see, it is 12 inches, and I think they make some that are smaller, more for regular sheets of paper. And it's got different temperature settings, as you can see here, for depending upon your mill. Now I'm working mostly with 3 mil pouches, but I actually have it at 7 mils because I find that that works better. 3 mils just doesn't get hot enough for whatever reason. I don't know why. The other thing, which has really nothing to do with this, but right after I got this, I was so disappointed. This is a quick little story. That something happened and this cover came off, broke off. I don't know if I dropped it or I can't remember now. It's been so long. And this poor insides. So I have to be careful when I use it. And I think I even broke something in here, and I was worried that it wasn't going to work. But it works, fortunately. But I do have to be careful when I carry it around because of that. This gets very hot, so I would say for safety, supervise young children. Just don't leave it around on when not in use, and make sure you have plenty of ventilation around and have room for your items to come in and out, because it's going to roll through. I use this probably most of the time when I'm doing a bulk run, like a lot of bookmarks at the time, or I'm doing something in succession where I just want to run things through. I will choose this hot laminate machine. Pretty much all my bookmarks are done with the hot laminate machine. And here's an example of what hot laminate can do for you. These are bookmarks. They are laminated on both sides, and when we actually do a process, I'll talk about sandwiching and carriers and all that in more detail as we move forward. But as you can see, these are covered on both sides. This was an actual ink-o printed piece of paper that I did a bookmark out of. This is toad flax. This is where I die cut a piece of paper and then adhered it to the background paper with arrangement on this paper. And again, this is got both sides. And this was a panel where I put the flowers on the panel. I adhered the panel to the parchment cardstock, and then I ran it through the laminating machine, and again, it's laminated on both sides. So this is my most popular application for the hot laminate machine, is for bookmarks. If you're doing luggage tags or other things where you really need maximum protection, the hot laminate machine is a really good option. You can also use the heat press, and if you've watched any of my EcoDyed videos, you will see me using the heat press, and I even have a video called using the heat press for laminating. So if you're interested, and I think I even did this bookmark with the heat press. So if you're interested in knowing how to use a heat press to laminate, because I won't go into that today because I already have a video about it, but I am mentioning it, that it does work. But since not a lot of people have heat presses, I'm focusing more on the iron and this machine, which you can get for relatively inexpensive nowadays. But there is a video for that, and I just want to let you know that the heat press will work for doing lamination. The other thing that you can use if you don't have a heat press or a machine is just a simple household iron. If you're not doing a lot of items and you don't need something for more bulk applications, then a household iron works perfectly fine. And I believe, if I remember correctly, I probably did it about on a wool or cotton setting. And here's a couple of things that I tested with. I've done other things with it, but I just brought these down to show you. These are actually wood, those wood die cut things that you can buy. And I just played around with some staining on them. And I only put the laminate on the front. I didn't put it on the back. So what I did in this particular case is I cut out a piece of laminate a little bit bigger than the piece I was working on. And then I used the tip, and I started out on the edge. And you start out on the edge, and you start with getting that adhered down, and then start rolling over and doing that. Way in and go around, work my way in. Same here. I started here, then I worked in, turned it, worked in, and then I went over the surface. I guess it's so that I'm not overworking the flowers. I'm more concerned with adhesion around the arrangement than I am pounding down on the arrangement with the adhesive. I want the adhesive to stick to the arrangement, but you really are more concerned about the edges. And so a household iron will work, no steam. You don't want to use steam when you're doing that. Let's talk for a minute about hot laminate mediums. They come in different mills, and most of the ones I have are 3 mil because that works fine for what I'm doing. But if you need a thicker mill for your projects, be sure to check out different options that you have. I have 2 brands, the Iveco and then this CBC DocuSeal. And when you open them up, they're not, you can get pouch sizes where they're already cut if you're wanting to make lanyards or luggage tags, that kind of thing. So you can get different sizes already cut, but I cut mine to size, and so I just buy the full sheets. And then I cut them the way that I want them. This is 9" by 11.5" inch laminating pouches. And these particular ones are 3 mil. And when you buy them and you open them up, they come with, this one I've almost used all the way, they come with what's called laminating, a laminating pouch for sandwiching your laminating in when you're putting it through the machine. And they're usually, in this case, bent in the container. And the one thing that I want to point out, which to me is fairly important, and maybe your results will be different, is that when they bend them, and I don't know if you can see in this video, the ridging on here, can you see it? See that, how it's ridged? This will transfer onto what you put through the laminating machine. So your results may vary, but I've just learned through my experience that if you lay a bookmark, for example, down here where there's those ridges, and then you laminate it through, you're going to get a weird texture on your bookmark that you're not going to like. So I will only use the pouches that come with the laminating film if I'm putting it in somewhere that's unobstructed, like this area here. But generally speaking, I don't even use the laminating pouches. I actually just use copy paper. And for bookmarks, I will put 1 bookmark per copy paper. And then what I do is I will take my second sheet and I'll put it on there. And then I'll get a piece of tape, and then I will just put one piece of tape on the top, just so that the papers don't move when I'm putting it through the laminating machine. And you just want to make sure that when you feed it in that your corners don't get caught. If you're really worried about it, you can tape it more toward the corner, but I really haven't had too much of a problem. But I will put at least one piece of tape up here so that it makes a hinge, so that when I put the bookmark in there, I can fold it down. The other thing, too, when I'm doing things is I used to try to do a whole sheet. For example, let's pretend like this doesn't have ridges in it. I was using the whole sheet, and I put 3 bookmarks in this way and maybe another one down this way. Well, what was happening was, because the laminate adheres and does things at different rates in different areas, it was, how do I describe it? It wasn't being uniformly adhered to all the different items in a cohesive manner, and I was ruining things. And so now, although yes, it takes longer, I will only put one item through the laminating machine at a time, at least until it glues down in a major fashion. So try it if you want to do more than one, but really the most successful for me is just doing things singularly. I also, as you can see, cut things down to suit whatever I'm working on. And sometimes I think this is only just one side. I've already used the other side. This one is from the corner, you can tell, because these are already kind of stuck together like a pouch here. Actually, it's like this. Those are already stuck together like a pouch. So this is ready to go. So we'll go ahead and laminate this in the hot laminating machine here in just a little bit. And this pouch will be, this paper pouch will be ready to go for that process. The first thing that we need to do to get ready to hot laminate is to actually cut our laminate to size for what we want to do. I'm going to get my trusty old piece of cardboard here. And I think we'll get this piece ready, and we'll use that for an iron demonstration. And I'm only going to do one side. So let's just figure out about how much that we need so that we don't have a whole lot more excess than necessary. So that's about right. I can probably take one more little sliver off of here. Okay, so that one is ready. One-sided. We'll use it for the iron. This one we are going to also do one-sided. And I could have used contact paper on this, but the reason why I'm going to do it with a laminator is because of static electricity. I was worried about these real thin petals lifting up. So we're going to go ahead and test it out with some laminating film. All of my little pieces on the top here are too small, so let me see if I have something bigger underneath, and if not, we'll have to cut into a new piece of paper. Okay, I do have something that's big enough here, and it's two-sided, so I need to break them apart. Now, the other thing too is on the laminating film, one side is super shiny and smooth, and one side is more matte. See, this is more matte, this is more shiny. You want the matte side against the item that you're laminating because that's the glue, that's the adhesive. So shiny side up. And probably just take a smidge off of here. Okay, so that one's ready to go. So we'll do that one through the laminating machine. We'll do the bookmark through the laminating machine. This is eco-dyed paper that I put the flowers on. Now for that, we want a double-sided. This looks like it'll be big enough, so let me split it open. Okay. I'm going to try to leave it together up there a little bit, otherwise sometimes I'll even tape the top part. Only when you tape the top part, so that they don't totally come apart, you want to make sure that you put the tape where you're not going to have any of your items. So this is a real small piece of tape, and I don't want this to come apart up here, so I am going to just tape that. And then when I put the bookmark in, or the tag, or whatever I use this for, because it's not really on a backing, it'll be sturdy enough when it's laminated that you can use it for a bookmark. This piece of paper is just barely, or this piece of laminate. Now see, my tape's going to be on there. I can't, this isn't big enough for what I was going to use it for. Let's see, I'm going to get something else. Let's just get a new piece and I'll show you. Okay, this, you see where the seam is on here? We're just going to take, this is a brand new sheet. I'm going to cut the sheet. And then we'll cut it up. Because this has a seam, I don't need to worry about taping it. I'm just dampening my fingers. That sometimes helps to get it apart. So she says. Okay, there we go. Put it up under there. I don't usually put it all the way to the top. I usually leave a little gap. I don't know why. And then just gently smooth it down, make sure it's within the confines of... Okay, gently smooth it down. This one's ready to go through the laminating machine. And then this one we're going to do one-sided. And where's the bigger, I had that bigger piece from earlier. Okay, so that's big enough. This one is very sheer and very wispy. And so I'm going to put it through the laminating machine as opposed to contact paper. Although if I was really careful with contact paper, we could do it successfully, but I don't want to risk it. I just turned on the laminating machine so it can heat up and we can go ahead and do some hot laminating. And I'm also turning on the iron. But I never remember what temperature to set the iron at that would equivalent to the laminating machine. So I created this little chart for myself a while back, and I'm going to hold it up so in case anyone else is interested in this. I do several different things with heat, and so I was trying to have an equivalent of things. And so today I'm looking at what in the laminating machine lingo would be about the same temperature or setting on my iron. And so I see from looking at the laminating section that, and I've got my laminating set at 7 mil, that I want about 260 degrees in heat. Well, what does that equivalent to the iron? So with the iron setting, 260 would equivalent to about lycra, or less than nylon. And so when I look at my iron, go over here and look at my iron, I've got acetate and nylon, acrylic and silk, polyester, wool, cotton and linen. And so let's see, nylon, they have nylon at 275. So it looks like I want to stay at the lower end of the settings on my iron. So I'm going to go ahead and set my iron to probably between nylon and acrylic and silk. And no steam. So that's what I'm turning it on. And since my iron doesn't have temperatures, I just got to go by what they say on there. Some other things on my chart which may or may not be of interest for you. Same thing with a heat press. When I turned the heat press on for heat pressing the hot laminate, I had the same situation. Well, what should I program the heat press to? And so I believe, if I remember correctly, I probably did it to something like 260, 275. I probably set it at. And then I just have a couple of other little statistics here for my own knowledge. I do embossing and I do powder coating. And so I just wanted some equivalencies with that. Alright, so our machines are turned on, they're getting hot, and we'll be ready to go in just a few minutes. Okay, we're going to go ahead and test this out and see if it's hot enough by actually putting something through it. This is the bookmark type of piece that is sandwiched in between two pieces of laminate. We already talked about the casing. I put things on a cardboard background so that I can feed it in slowly. I put a little bit off of the backboard, and then I set it down here, which you can just see me starting to tuck it in. And then I'm just going to slowly push it in until it catches. And it's already catching. It's starting to go in. And now we just wait for it to come out the other end. Here's my cardboard. I'll set it off to the side. Let me find a pair of scissors. Doesn't feel very hot. Let's see if anything happened. This isn't as hot as I was thinking it was going to be. Okay, so it did. Now you'll see that it kind of, it's a little bit bent. So now what I'll do is I'll turn it over to the other side, and then we'll run it through again. This time I don't need the cardboard because it's already been laminated, and I'm not trying to keep it as flat level as I was when I first fed it in. Just make sure on the back of your laminating that you have enough room that when this comes out it's not going into something that would stop it having a free flow. Okay, bring our cardboard up and take a look. And you can see where it's it looks fully sealed. So then what I'll do, and I'll do it off camera, is I'll just take my scissors, and then I don't leave a margin because you don't really need to. I just cut maybe right off. Here's the kind of margin that I leave, if even this much. Let me bring it up closer. See, I just barely leave. I just pretty much cut right next to the paper, not on the paper line, but right next to the paper line. And so I'll cut this whole thing out and then decide if I want to round the corners. Okay, so let's do our other one, which was, this was one-sided, and that was because I was worried these would pull up if I did the contact paper. And the reason why we have more control with this is because we're setting it down before the adhesive is activated, so we can make sure that everything is tucked down. Okay, let's put our paper back on and gently roll it over. It's only on one side. Let's get ready to feed it in. And now let's take a look at it and see what happened. Okay, it needs to go through, I think, one more one more time. Looks pretty good. Now, because this is only one-sided, this is adhered to the paper. So I could make a decision about, which I probably will, I'm going to cut this off of the paper and take it down so that it won't stick. And I'll use a fresh piece of paper when we go through next time. Okay. It actually looks pretty good, but I think we will put it through one more time. Let's see. Let me get a fresh paper. All right. This is a good way to use a lot of scrap paper. Just make sure, at least in my opinion anyway, that you don't use the ink side. You don't want to risk any type print or ink getting onto your laminate. Yeah, so this looks really good. Now you can see that laminate is more shiny than the contact paper. And then the back is just regular paper. And then for this, we're going to use a die cut, and we're going to cut it. Okay, similar to what we did with the contact paper, I used a piece of tape to make sure that my die didn't move. And then I ran it through twice. And now we'll just take it off. Let's hold it up, see what it looks like. And there you go. Now we're going to move on to the iron. I'm going to turn this off. Okay, so my iron's turned on to this acrylic silk setting. This is just a vermiculite board, my non-fancy ironing surface. It's heat resistant. And I got some newspaper down there, and then this is a Teflon mat. And I'm going to put a piece of white paper down because we're working with single-sided laminate, so the glue will stick to the paper on the edges. And so we're going to go ahead and we are going to iron this. Let me bring the camera a little bit closer. Okay, hopefully that's clear. I'm going to start on the edge. Oh, I want to take a piece of paper. Let me grab a piece of paper. What I do with this is I use the paper over the part that I'm going to press. So I'm going to start on the outside. And I'm pressing the outside, and then I'm going to tilt the paper back and see. And the answer is yes, it's adhering. So now I'm going to go here. I'll go around here. I'll go here. And now I'm just going to kind of start toward the middle. And let's take a look. Well, it's stuck to the paper, so it's not adhered all the way down yet, so let's do some more. And I think we'll cut the, let's go ahead and cut the glue off the paper because it's making it so it's not laying as flat as I'd like it to. Let's get this off of here and see if we can. Get that to lay flatter. Alright. Let's see if we can smooth this out now. I don't think this iron's hot enough. It's not. I don't think this iron's hot enough. It's not. I don't like what it's doing. Let me crank the heat up a little bit. See if we can work that out. I'm going to start from the middle now and work out. It's not stuck down yet. Yeah, that side's good. It's only right in here where we're having a problem. I don't know. Oh, that's sad. In that I may have ruined it. I don't think this is going to shrink enough. Okay, let's give it a try. See if I can pull it out. Kind of stretch it like I was doing a canvas. Ah, yay! All right, okay, we saved it. All right, so what I did was there was still enough of space here that wasn't adhered that by lifting a little bit, it was able to create an air pocket, so that then when I lifted and pulled, the air released out of there. Okay. Boy, that's pretty hot. I might have it too hot now. Put it back down a little bit. Bring the cardboard up. Now, my comment is that we alleviated the problem we started to have, which was the buckling. Only I pressed down so hard right here that some of the silky fibers got matted down. I mean, either that or part of the buttercup is starting to come through. It's still usable. I'm going to iron this side for a second just because it was starting to want to curve a little bit. So if it starts to curve, then just iron the other side or run it through on the other side through the hot laminating. And so if it's curving this way and then you turn it over and run it through, it will flatten it back out. For example, this one's curved a little bit. And so if I iron the back side just real quickly, it will flatten it. See, now it wants to curve the other way. So you just do it until it lays flat. And then we had one more that we were going to use the iron on. Let's see if we can be a little more successful this time. I'm going to go ahead and lay the iron flat on the whole thing to start with. Only I'm not going to press as hard as I did on the other one. And let's see what happens. I'm being more gentle pressure this time instead of last time I was being a muscle woman. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, it's not done yet, but it looks okay. And it's starting. I'll show you what I mean by I can tell it's starting. Now this is watercolor paper. And if you can see over here, because the watercolor paper has a texture, and I don't know if you can see it, but I can tell that the texture is fusing with the adhesive right over in here. So we're starting to have results. It's just not done yet. So again, I'm not pressing this time. I'm just kind of letting the weight of the iron do the work. Okay. I'm going to continue off camera because my battery's about to die, so I'll finish this up. You just wait until it's fully adhered, and then just cut it out, whatever method you're going to use, and then you'll be done. So in conclusion, for our packing tape, contact paper, hot laminate little mini-series that we did, let me bring this closer. Just take a final look and see if you can tell which one was done with what. Like which one of these is contact paper versus packing tape versus laminate. And of course, if you watched all 3 videos, not talking the introduction, which there's an introduction, but if you watched the 3 detail videos, you might already know the answer. And this is laminate, one-sided. It's on this particular eco-dyed piece of paper mounted on this brown backing cardstock. This is contact paper, same thing. This eco-dyed portion has the contact paper, and again it was mounted on the brown cardstock. The rest of these are all the packing tape, and I did 4 different kinds in our little process video. And then this is laminate, hot laminate, hot laminate, hot laminate, and then this is contact paper, contact paper, contact paper, hot laminate. So you can see the difference. And it might also help to answer the question, why do I prefer contact paper? Because unless you look at it at a certain angle, it doesn't look like there's anything on top. When you see, now you can tell that there's something on top. But just looking at it like that, it's really hard to tell. So it gives a lot more natural look with maximum protection. But then again, it just depends on what you're using it for. So play around, and they each have their uses. And as I mentioned earlier, I will be going into some other protective ideas down the line. Anything from wax paper to acetate to wet mediums. There's all kinds of other different things that you can do. So I will hope to cover some of those in the future. And thanks again for tuning in, and you have a wonderful day.